Daniel Sports Central, we go over our next schedule preview this offseason, and it's going to be over the USC Trojans, a team that came back to life in the 2022 season. This team was 11-3 in 2022. They were very much a college football playoff contender all the way till the very end. This team just could not get past Utah in the 2022 season, and in the end, they came up just short of the college football playoff. But how will this team be in 2023, and why I think this team could potentially be even more of a contender in the 2023 season is what we'll be talking about here today. We'll be going over the players that this team will be losing, who they'll be returning, and previewing their schedule for the first time this offseason. Let's get started with a quick recap of 2022 for this team. Once again, it was a solid season for USC, considering this team was just 4-8 back in 2021. They were a bottom feeder in the Pac-12 just a couple of years ago, and this team is very much a contender now as we look forward to 2023. You look back at 2022, they were dominant at the start of the season with dominant wins over Rice, and then they took care of Stanford and Fresno State. Had a close win against Oregon State, but of course the Beavers were actually a solid team last season, so that turned out to be a quality win. Beat Arizona State, beat Washington State, and then they had their loss to Utah there on the road in Salt Lake. Lost it 42-43. That's a brutal loss there, and Utah that was the one team that USC could just not get past. I mean, they beat every team on their schedule before the postseason except for Utah, and they ended up losing to the Utes as well in the Pac-12 championship. But, I mean, coming off of the bye after that Utah loss, they had a close win against Arizona on the road, a close win against Cal, 41-35. That one was scary close at the end of the day. And so, I mean, this team was definitely questioned heading into the middle parts of November. They had a dominant win over Colorado, a solid win over UCLA on the road, and then they beat Notre Dame 38-27 to finish out the regular season. And after those three wins to finish out the regular season, this team was right up there in contention for the college football playoff. If they would have beaten the Utes in the Pac-12 title game, they would have been in the college football playoff. I'm pretty confident in saying that. And in the end, ended up losing to Utah 47-24 in the Pac-12 title game. Just didn't go as planned. And in the end, this team played Tulane in the Cotton Bowl, lost to them 46-45 in a come-from-behind win for Tulane. That game was it was an outstanding one for sure. I mean, USC was in control of that game for a long time, but Tulane came back and got it in the end. So final record 11-3, still an outstanding season for USC, and this team is very much on the right track as we look forward to 2023. Your roster preview going to next season. This team has got Caleb Williams coming back, who obviously is the big name on this team. He was nothing short of outstanding in 2022. Didn't disappoint one bit. His stats, 4,500 yards, 42 touchdowns, over 5 interceptions, and a 67% completion rate. Also rushed for nearly 400 yards on the season and 10 touchdowns. So, yeah, an outstanding season for Caleb Williams. Won the Heisman as well. He is very much a player to keep an eye on as we look forward to 2023. The sky is the limit for him and for this offense. And, I mean, you look at this team as a whole, defensively is really where this team struggled in 2022, which wasn't a big surprise considering where they were in 2021 and just weren't adding much significant talent. I mean, this USC defense was pretty similar to the 2021 version that we saw. It was just the offense that added so much talent and was so impressive in the 2022 season. And looking forward to 2023, Travis Dye and Jordan Addison are both gone, the lead rusher and the lead receiver on this team. But you do have some really outstanding depth in both the backfield and the receiving core, which honestly makes me not too concerned for losing both of them. You got Austin Jones coming back, who rushed for nearly 1,000 yards on the season and 6 touchdowns. He took over for when Travis Dye was injured. So we did see him a decent amount in the 2022 season. And also in the receiving core, you got Taj Washington coming back, who received nearly 800 yards on the season and 6 touchdowns. Mario Williams and Brendan Rice are also coming back, the third and fourth receivers on this team respectively. They do lose 4 on the offensive line. This team does need to replace some guys on the offensive line. The transfer portal, you are adding a couple of players there, which is going to be a key factor. Considering that's my main concern on this offense. Defensively, though, this team does return the majority of their key players. They lose 2 on the defensive line, 1 in the secondary as well. Linebacking core looks great. Defensively, this team should be improved going into next season. And that means, I mean, all signs point to this team being even more of a contender in the 2023 season. This offense has got some great depth. Things really look good, I would say. And on the defense, this defense was poor in 2022. There's no hiding that. But looking forward to 2023, they do have some experience coming back, which is obviously super important. And so brings up the question, are the Trojans a true national contender in 2023? I think so. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen a Pac-12 team be a legitimate, like we're talking top-tier contender. I think USC is right up there with Georgia and Alabama as far as contenders go going into next season, just because of the returning production. Lincoln Riley is an outstanding head coach. And, I mean, Caleb Williams and some of the transfers as well. I mean, things just look really good for this USC team going into next season. Marshawn Lloyd is coming in, running back from South Carolina. Kyle Ford, receivers off to UCLA. You bring in Dorian Singer from Arizona, a receiver there. And here are a couple of your offensive linemen coming in. You got Ethan White coming in from Florida. Michael Tarquin coming in from Florida as well. Jarrett Kingston coming in from Washington State. So that's obviously super important there, adding some depth to this offensive line, which is losing 4 of their key players. On the defensive line, you bring in Anthony Lucas from Texas A&M, Jack Sullivan from Purdue as well, along with Keon Bars, defensive lineman from Arizona, and then you lose Kobe Pepe, defensive lineman in the transfer portal, but you really didn't have a major impact on this team, so I'm not too concerned there. As far as linebackers go, Raylan Goforth is off to Washington. You bring in Mason Cobb from Oklahoma State, Jamil Muhammad coming in from Georgia State, and you lose Nomura, who is off to Fresno State. Christian Rowland, defensive back, is coming in from Arizona, and you lose Britton Allen, safety who's in the transfer portal right now. So this team has obviously been super active in the transfer portal. I mean, these are just your most notable moves. This isn't all of them for USC so far this offseason. Recruiting-wise, overall, pretty good. 12th nationally. They're second in the Pac-12, I believe, just behind Oregon. They got 2 5-stars coming in and 10 4-stars. And on the future forecast meter, I got this team at a 9 out of 10. Honestly, I considered putting them at a 10 out of 10, but I only saved that for exceptional teams. Georgia was at a 10. I think that's the one team I've put at a 10. And USC at number 9. I think this team is very much going to be a contender for many years to come, especially in 2023. This is really, I mean, I think USC's really got a chance here as we look forward to 2023 to be a major contender if the defense can get it figured out. This offense looks great, just a matter of the defense. But that said, let's look at your schedule now going to next season. You got San Jose State in week 0 to start off the season. That is on August 26th. And then in week 1, you got Nevada, Stanford after that. So you got 3 home games to start off the season. Arizona State on the road on the 23rd. You got Colorado on the road on the 30th. Arizona State at home, Notre Dame on the road, Utah at home, and then Cal on the road. And they got Washington at home, which is going to be a huge game. Same with the Oregon one on the road. I mean, November is the most important month for this team for sure. I mean, that Utah game is obviously huge, but Washington and Oregon both should be big contenders in this conference. UCLA I could see being decent. You got them on the 18th, and so you don't have a game scheduled for the last week of the regular season, which is interesting. We'll see if that gets changed. I don't assume that it will be, but if it does stand, that it's kind of a weird schedule because then your bye week is on September 16th, pretty early on in this season, so that's something to keep in mind. It's kind of an odd schedule set up for this USC team. But for the first month of action, San Jose State, I say that's an easy win. Nevada as well, same with Stanford, should take care of those 3 teams. So it sets up well at the start of the season for you to have some winnable games here. So you get 3 easy wins right off the bat. Just get warmed up into the season without any potential trap games. And then you got 2 road games, Arizona State and Colorado, 2 of the worst teams in the Pac-12 as we look forward to next season. You should win both of those, but I will put both of them in yellow because they are road conference games. So your ceiling's 5-0. This team should be 5-0 heading into October. Honestly, I'd be very surprised if they weren't, just because all 5 of your first games are pretty winnable ones for sure. But then October, you got a couple of crucial games, in particular the Notre Dame and Utah games. Notre Dame on the road, they should be a contender going to next season. That's a huge resume game. And I'm going to favor you against Notre Dame and Utah. You got Utah at home there on the 21st. That's obviously a huge game there as well. I think you take care of Arizona and Cal, those 2 games as well. So heading into November, Ceiling remains 8-0. I could very much see this team as undefeated heading into November. That Notre Dame game, I am a bit worried about. Notre Dame's a tough place to play, and that's a team that I see being very much a contender looking forward to next season. Obviously, they got Sam Hartman in there now, and that's going to be a team that I think, they should very much be a contender next season. Utah could be decent. Cam Rising, I don't know. Utah's a team that I thought last season could have been their year. I like USC more than Utah, though, heading into 2023, that's for sure. Ceiling's still 8-0. I think the floor is 7-1, so that's a pretty high floor, you could say. You could put 6-2 in there, but I think 7-1 as we look forward to November. Then you got Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. And Washington, this is a winnable game. You got them at home. I do think I'll favor you in that game right now, but then you got Oregon on the road. This is a game where it's so far out, you just can't predict it right now. But the Ducks on the road, a tough place to play. I think the Ducks next season, Bo Nix coming back, they could be a real contender. Things are looking good for them as well. Honestly, the Pac-12 has got multiple teams. We've seen it in years past where the Pac-12 was just beating themselves up in the conference. It's just you look at last season, for example, there were 6 or 7 solid teams in the Pac-12, but the problem was none of the teams got in the college football playoff in the end. None of them were true contenders, just because they'd always be just beating themselves up in the conference because the competition at the top was so close. And I could see that being the case in 2023 once again, just based on, you got Oregon who should be good. Washington I expect to be good once again. Utah should be up there. Obviously, you got USC right here. So, it's going to be a challenging conference, a competitive conference. And for that reason, it's tough to predict. But I will be favoring Oregon right now in that matchup. And then you got UCLA. I am fairly confident you beat them. I think UCLA falls off a bit. Looking forward to 2023. I don't expect them to be quite as good. But nonetheless, I got 12-0 for USC heading into next season. For the ceiling, your floor is 10-2. I think this team, I'm pretty confident they're between 10 and 12 wins. This is just a team that is set up too well to not be a contender going into next season. I'd honestly be very surprised if this team wasn't right up there in the conversation in November for the college football playoff. When you got Caleb Williams coming back, this offense looks as good as it does. Defensively, that was the main issue last year, and it should be better. You're returning the majority of your defense, which is obviously that is crucial for any team to have experience, and USC is going to have exactly that, it appears, on the defense going into next season. So a really interesting team here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on USC, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Let me know your record predictions and all of that down in the comments. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll catch you on the next one.